Hello and welcome to my channel. Here we have a wild moose in his natural habitat, holding a piano in one hand and smacking the life out of his enemies. Czerny is a defender from the Arts Protector archetype. Operators from this archetype deal physical damage with their basic attacks, which will later change to arts when their skill is activated. Looking at Czerny's stats, he has an impressive base attack for a defender operator and boasts some resistance, though his DP cost is quite high and has slightly lower defense than other defenders. Moving on to his talent, Czerny gains 10 extra resistance, and when receiving arts damage, Czerny will deal a percentage of his attack as arts damage to the attacker. While the attack scaling is impressive, given the fact that most enemies that are capable of dealing arts damage have decent resistance, Czerny's damage from this talent will see a sizable decrease in effectiveness against such enemies. Aside from that, the increased resistance ties in well with the rest of his kit. Next up are his skills. Czerny's first skill increases his attack and doubles his resistance at Mastery 3. While the attack buff is decent, the main highlight of this skill is the huge resistance buff. Doing the math, Czerny's resistance shoots up to 50 at Mastery 3 when the skill is activated. That's a lot of resistance. You can make use of Czerny by baiting hostile ranged arts attacks with this skill, and he'll be able to tank most of them fairly well. That being said, the lack of any defense buffs still makes him vulnerable to high physical damage. As for his second skill, Czerny doubles his HP and increases his taunt level. For every attack he receives during the skill's duration, Czerny gets an attack buff that can stack up to 10 times. He will then deal a burst of arts damage that scales with his attack after the skill ends. There are some things to point out. Firstly, the increased HP and taunt level essentially makes him a focal point for ranged attacks. With the addition of incoming melee enemies, he can be easily overwhelmed even with the HP buff. So having a medic as backup when using this skill is always a good idea. Secondly, the damage output from this skill is directly proportional to the number of attack stacks he obtains during the skill's duration. Fortunately, receiving 10 hits in 20 seconds isn't that hard to accomplish with proper skill timing. The burst of arts damage at the end is the bread and butter of this skill. With the maximum attack buff of 300% from the stacks and paired with a further scaling of 250%, Czerny's burst damage is actually really impressive. What's more, the arts damage will hit all enemies in a small radius around him. This skill has an average SP cost and duration. So, should you build Czerny? It sure is nice to see the Arts Protector archetype getting some love. While Czerny's kit is interesting and makes him shine in situations where there are a lot of arts damage in a stage, which is quite rare, there are obvious flaws that make him a really niche operator. Take for example his niche of tanking ranged attacks. There are usually much better alternatives that can fulfill the same niche while providing more to the table. Even for non-arts situations, one good alternative are the healing defenders. Let's say Nerl, since she's from the same rarity, with proper deployment management, she is able to not only draw enemy fire, but also keep herself and her allies alive with healing. The main reason to use Czerny is his second skill, which offers high arts burst damage, but given the fact that the damage can be quite inconsistent due to the way the skill works, it's really hard to recommend building him over other operators. That being said, there are some upsides. His arts reflection from his talent and taunting can prove to be useful in certain scenarios, plus the sound effects from his skills are just amazing. Take a listen. So yeah, that's about it for this guide. Will you be building the moose with the piano? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you there. Oh, and do subscribe for more guides like this. Thanks and bye.